Early January every year in Galveston, Texas, we hold the Keep On Tookin conference. You remember the slogan, Keep On Truckin, from the Robert Crumb cartoon? And you remember, here are the steps we took, which are suggested as a program of recovery. Well, once we've taken the 12 steps, our job is to keep on tookin. We have main speakers, panels with attendee participation, and, this year, Father Tom from Oakland, California, who is AA and Al-Anon. There is also a Q&A session as the last session of the weekend. As the recordings are available, I will upload them here as a guest spot on the podcast.
In prayer.
Good morning. My name is Joe McFadden. I'm a grateful alcoholic. May we have a moment of silence to remember those who were here and left, and those who have yet to come, and those who are here. Thank you. Dear Lord, be with us this morning as we start this conference Saturday morning and we kick it off. May our receptive soil of our consciousness be open to receive the inspiration and the seeds thereof from these wonderful, gifted orators and speakers, so that when we leave here, the fruits of that will go out and carry this message and help so many people in the programs of Alcoholics Anonymous and Al-Anon. Amen. Amen. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to the person and the reason we're all here this morning. Tom.
I'm Tom and I'm an alcoholic. And I could use another 100,000 Al-Anon meetings. Let's try the Serenity Prayer. God, grant me to accept the courage and the wisdom to know the difference. So, this morning and this afternoon and this evening, I hope to share with you some experience and some reflections on being alive and being in recovery. I clearly have my own point of view on some things, and there are some people with good recovery who disagree with me on crucial issues. I wish God would strike them drunk, but he hasn't. But there's lots of ways people experience the program of recovery. Marty Mann, one of the first women to get sober, stay sober, she had a relapse, got sober again. She spoke at the International Convention in New Orleans in 1980. My sponsor made me go. I saw her there. I waved at her. She also gave a talk that weekend, but I didn't know who she was, so I didn't go. And she died later that year. She had a cerebral hemorrhage and left us very quickly, Marty Mann. But she was a tough bird. She didn't put up with fools easily, so you know that meetings were very difficult for her. She said the genius of the program is it works when you have 30 days and it works when you have 30 years. And there's a great flexibility and common sense that goes all through the program. And you want to deep breath and talk to people and connect and ask God for help. And amazing things happen. So I'm an alcoholic of the worst variety. I'm self-obsessed and I'm whiny and I'm immature. And I'm sure you're in my way and you're not going fast enough. And I wake up like that most mornings. And it takes me a little time to get into the day when I'm no longer in my way as much. So happy to share with you what I know. And like I say, there are many other ways of doing this. I live in Oakland, California. I've lived there since 1981. I grew up in San Jose. which is now the Silicon Valley, but when I grew up, it was orchards. And my father was the superintendent of the local cannery, so he knew every farmer in the Santa Clara Valley, and there were lots of them. So nothing particularly fancy. My mother was an accountant for a construction company, and numbers and math were very easy for her, and that's why I cannot add or subtract. Whenever I go to the bank and the count is off, I explain to them my mother was an accountant, and this is not my fault. I'm a daily drinker. I'm a drunk driver, and that means I was willing to kill you. I got my driver's license when I was 16. I did not have to drink to drive badly. As a kid, I did some really stupid things. Kid, how fast can we go? Let's slam on the brakes. Let's see what happens. I've done that. I did that a couple of times because once is not enough. And never killed anybody, but could have. When I read in the paper, there's a accident at 4 a.m. with a bunch of kids in the car, I always read that very carefully. I was a high school teacher for 100 years in Los Angeles. In fact, I spent Thursday night at Strake Jesuit in Houston, which I'd never been to before. It's a very large school with about 1,200 kids. I'd never been there before, but I taught at the Jesuit high school in Los Angeles. And that was my first real job. And I taught history. I love stories, and I'm an amateur historian. But I taught Russian history and German history and European history, even American history, which is much less interesting until recently. I taught 3 years drinking and 4 years sober. My first Al-Anon meetings were because I was a teacher. And I was angry at all my students, and I was burned out. And I did burn out as a high school teacher because I had no Al-Anon. I would get involved in all the crazy and like it. Adrenaline is as good a drug as you can find if you need one. But what goes up comes down, and I was very burned out and very angry and useless. I became the angriest adult on campus, yelling at kids all the time. One of my moments of shame, and there's a long list of moments of shame, there was a band called Devo, and Drek, awful, stupid. But one of the boys in my class thought they were as good as, Mozart. And I was I was yelling at him about music, and that he didn't know anything, and he was a foolish young person, but I was cruder and angrier and crazier. And I had a moment of clarity, and I noticed that I was arguing with all I could come up with, passionately, with this 16-year-old boy about the music he liked. Who's the crazy person here? He gets to like whatever he likes. I hope he's still alive. But I went to a weekend retreat that weekend to the following weekend, feeling off balance. And AA and Al-Anon were there, and Saturday night there was a meeting, and the AAs and Al-Anons spoke at the same time in the same place, and the AAs allowed the Al-Anons to speak. Sometimes they don't, because we're the true church, and you Al-Anons don't measure up to real crazy. That's because they haven't talked to a lot of Al-Anons. I very much appreciate the speaker last night. I think Lisa was her name, and she's right on the money. I mean, in Al-Anon, we do not have to drink to kill. We're very clear on that. And there was a trial here in Texas, a murder trial, and the defense was the person who was murdered needed killing. And you could have that discussion at any Al-Anon meeting and people would just nod their heads and understand. We have a different understanding of a lot of things, so it's, oh my goodness. And Mary Pearl T was mentioned last night, and I loved the first time I heard her, I just fell in love with her. And because she talked about almost killing her husband, and he's not dead because she's a nurse, and she got him back. It's a great story, not mine. You can listen to her. So I went back to Oakland, and we were going to have a day in Al-Anon. It was a very, very hot summer day, and we were in a wooden church, and there was no air. But we thought we'd have a topic about the anger and the violence, which is really not easy to talk about because it's so scary. But we, inspired by Mary Pearl, we had a session called Murderous Thoughts. Sounds very formal and serious. And everybody was very formal and serious, but the person who led the meeting was hilarious. And all of a sudden people were laughing until they were crying because she was speaking the unspeakable. Boy, it was good. So the next year at the conference, we had the same topic, but we changed the title to What Would You Do with the Body? A very full room. And I bumped into Mary Pearl a few years later, and I said, what were you going to do with the body? And she said, first things first, kill the sumbitch. So I found that very liberating. So Al-Anon. But as a teacher, I'm a Catholic priest. I've been in the Jesuit order for 60 years. You'd think I'd be a better person by now. I help out in the parish. I do stuff. I have some position in my own community. So I'm active in all kinds of things, and I'm very surrounded by good people most of the time. People in recovery, people in my community. And a lot of that rubs off if you're patient enough. Not all of it, but a lot of it rubs off. And if the word Jesuit throws you, I mean, there's all kinds of ways of being a Catholic priest. There's Dominicans, and there's Franciscans, and there's Carmelites, and they're all different, and they barely speak to each other. We barely speak to each other. We're suspicious. We have issues. But there's my group. So I was sober a little bit, and I bumped into a physician in recovery. And his name was Gil Ayot, and he was from French Canada. And he was an old man when I met him. I'm now almost 80, but he was like 70s. My first AA meeting was an old-timers meeting, and they were all in their 50s, and I thought they were ancient. I was 29, and how do these people even move, I wondered. Anyway, Gil got sober during the late Eisenhower administration. And then he had a little relapse under Mr. Kennedy. And he got sober again with Lyndon Johnson about 1965. And he worked helping people get well, helping families get well for the rest of his medical life. Very impressive human being. French was his first language, so he kind of had that sexy accent of Maurice Chevalier. You know, you can look him up if you're young, Maurice Chevalier. And Gil started going blind with macular degeneration, so there were some of us younger guys who got to drive him around. And that's one of the great jobs, to drive around some of the older folks because they know a lot. And Gil knew a lot. He was educated, he was thoughtful. Those are two different things. He was wise. That's a third different thing. And a medical guy. So he was constantly involved with people. And I drove him to a conference that he was at. It was a bunch of doctors and medical people and nurses. And he was going to talk to them about alcoholism. Medical people are tough to talk to because they know everything. Church people are tough to talk to. They know everything. I mean, try to get a new idea in there, and it's miraculous. round earth, not flat earth. You know, those kinds of things. And Gil talked about symptoms, and he talked about blackouts, and he talked about tolerance, and he talked about all those other things that indicate that you're an abnormal drinker. All of which I have. I mean, the blackouts from high school. I drank in high school. I thought it made me masculine, strong, and smart. And I could also dance with enough alcohol, so I loved it at the age of 16 and 17 and 18. Gil was finished with his presentation. And a person raised her hand and said, "Is it really a disease?" That which was the topic for the last 40 minutes, but she had a question. Is it really a disease? And he explained, symptoms, progression, dead. Yeah, it's a disease. Well, she said, if someone's showing early symptoms of alcoholism, can't you sit them down and say, listen, you're showing early symptoms of alcoholism. You should stop. You're reminding us a lot of your dad. You should stop. You're reminding us a lot of Aunt Mary. You should stop. Won't that work? And Gil said, it's a nice idea, but it won't work. And it won't work because alcoholism is a disease that has 3 distinct stages, 3 distinct phases to it. Stage 1, phase 1, it's fun. And if you're having fun, you're not going to stop. I loved alcohol. It sparkled. I remember being at a wedding and champagne was there. I think I was 11, and I could not get over champagne, how sparkly it was and fun. And I danced and I sang, and it was wonderful. So that lasted. Fun. And in high school, it was fun to drink and dance, and I talked to girls. It was really quite wonderful. That's stage 1. Stage 2 is called fun plus problems, or fun plus trouble. It's still fun. But you're starting to have a few problems. You're starting to get into trouble. People are noticing what a jerk you were. I remember, calling friends saying things like, "What happened last night?" One of my friends who started going to Al-Anon responded to that by saying, "What's the last thing you remember?" Which is an Al-Anon trick question. Fun plus problems. And then stage 3 is just called problems. It's just trouble. But you're still doing it. Now, anyone can get into trouble by drinking too much. I think Lisa mentioned that. She might look like an alcoholic. They try to keep up with us, but it's not the same deal. They're just trying to keep up. They don't know the joy of real alcoholism. So the first step asks the question, are you still having any fun? And if you're still having fun, we don't look good to you. Oh, let's go and spend a weekend on Galveston Island and not drink. What? Why would you do that, Someone else mentioned the gift of desperation last night. If you're desperate enough, I'm in both programs, and so I tell people I'm bilingual. And some meetings have a lot of rules. I've been to Al-Anon meetings in Texas, and they very politely say, if you're in another fellowship, we're delighted, but please don't mention it. I wonder what the story is behind that, say I, as a visitor. Well, I know what happens is an AA goes to an Al-Anon meeting, and the AA is convinced they really want to hear his story, and they don't, But he can't shut up because he's in AA. So that's probably where that came from. Anyway, I was at a meeting, AA meeting, maybe 4th of July, and I gave a talk in Marin County, which is a bridge away from where I live. Terrifying place. And I mentioned that I go to Al-Anon. Because I go to Al-Anon because I did not want to be a sober person who was shooting people. And the Al-Anons just nod their heads. The AAs look puzzled. Who would you shoot, they say. They don't know that in dark Al-Anon, the question is, do you shoot to kill or do you shoot to maim? And the room divides. And they each have their reasons, you know. The nice thing about maiming somebody is whenever they move, they'll remember you. And that's an intimacy you just can't buy at the store. You know? So, I mentioned at this meeting that anger and exhaustion are my two Al-Anon issues. And I mentioned that and then went on. And a lady came up to me and she said, I'm 7 years sober and I hate everybody. Should I go to Al-Anon? And I said to her, don't try too hard to get well too fast. Easy does this. Because if you go to Al-Anon too early, you'll notice the differences, not the similarities. Oh, they're too old, or they're knitting, or they're carrying stuffed animals. Gad, that was an awful phase in Al-Anon. But when you're ready, it's a program that'll save your life. When I got sober, which was during the brief Gerald Ford presidency, back then, the understanding of people in recovery was you're in this program or that program and no one mixes. And that whole generation is dead. And you had to smoke at meetings or you weren't an alcoholic. That whole generation is dead. So what we've discovered is many of us need a second program. A lot of us need a third program. And a significant number need a fourth. Because we're alive and we're older. And there's lots of opportunities for being an idiot, on this planet Earth. I put down the bottle and I pick up the sugar. That happens to a lot of us. Step 1. Powerless and unmanageable. Those were new words to me. Those were additional words to my vocabulary. I felt exhausted, dirty, ashamed, lots of secrets. No one can hear the whole story. You know some, and you know some, and you know some, and I hope you never meet and have a conversation, because if you add 2 and 2, you're going to get 4, and then where will I be? This is in the chapter, the AA Big Book, called A Vision for You. For most normal folks, drinking means conviviality, companionship, and colorful imagination. It means release from care, boredom, and worry. It is joyous intimacy with friends and a feeling that life is good. That's what lots of people have that experience. In my house, I live in the Jesuit community in Oakland. There's 6 of us in the house, 3 of us sober in the program. And 2 other guys, they're what we call normal drinkers. I'd like to explain that to you. So a man with whom I've lived for 40 years, we could be domestic partners. He's 86 years old. His name is John. And every night about 5 o'clock, he has 1 double scotch. 1. It's a joke. I usually say about 5 o'clock, John, why don't you have a drink? And then he has 1 double scotch. So during quarantine, we're all home all the time, and we're on top of each other. And I notice he uses a shot glass. If he had floated to the ceiling, I would not have been more surprised. I saw an adult male use a shot glass. And I stopped breathing. It took a couple days to recover. And I asked him a couple days later, John, why do you use a shot glass? I tried to not sound threatening with the question, just a simple question. And he said, you don't want too much. So I grabbed the other two sober alcoholics in the house and we gossiped about him for about an hour. We'll bury him with his shot glass. I think for Christmas I give him a new shot glass. You know, I'm so glad. And then this was in the last 6 months. It was about 5 o'clock. We're watching the news and he is not having a drink. I said, John, where's your drink? And he said, I took an ibuprofen an hour ago and I don't want to mix them up. Who are you? I said, this is terrifying. For most normal folks, they enjoy it. Another guy in the house, it was 4th of July, we're coming out of quarantine. What shall we do on the 4th of July? We all live we're all native from that area. None of us had been to Alcatraz because we live there, and that's for tourists. So we thought we'd go to Alcatraz. You have to buy tickets and make reservations. We got on the boat and went out and looked around Alcatraz. Completely fascinating. Then we were going to have a fancy 4th of July dinner in San Francisco at Pier 39, which is all for tourists and 9 languages being spoken. We went to a place and me and another sober guy, and the non-alcoholics ordered alcohol. Who knows? But the guy right across from us, who's another extraordinary human being, he ordered a beer from Czechoslovakia. And it was in this big glass, amber, frosted, chilled, perfect. And I watched him like a cat watches someone eating a tuna fish sandwich. And I've been sober a long time. I couldn't get him. And he drinks half of it. Exactly. This is a nightmare. And on the way out, I bumped into the other alcoholic and I said, did you notice? He said, oh, yes. He said, I noticed. For most normal folks, we wish him well. My oldest brother's alcoholic in recovery. My middle brother didn't have alcoholism, but he had depression and cancer, so that's almost as good as alcoholism. Then there's me. But not so with us in those last days of heavy drinking. The old pleasures were gone. They were but memories. Never could we recapture the great moments of the past. There was an insistent yearning, strong word, yearning, to enjoy life as we once did, and a heartbreaking obsession that some new miracle of control would enable us to do it. There was always one more attempt and one more failure, and that's the story of my drinking. My sponsor for 45 years was a priest from the Archdiocese of Los Angeles. So he's a diocesan priest, not an order priest, and he would give lots of retreats, and he was smart and well-read. And people would ask him, are you a Jesuit? And he said, no, but I can read and write. That was his response. He got sober on his 7th rehab. 7th. Rehab after rehab after rehab. They sent him up to Schick-Shadel where they do aversion therapy, where if you throw up enough, you'll stop drinking. How naive is that, you know? You drink because you're having a good time. We'll make you sick. And he kept on getting sick. It was the 7th rehab. And he knew his father died of alcoholism when Terry was 5 years old. He had uncles in the program on both sides of the family. And Terry knew, he read the big book in high school before he took his first drink. he was a good boy. He was an Eagle Scout kind of young man. They're always very impressive and a little intense. And he had his first drink at the age of 21 on his 21st birthday at noon. And he said he discovered America. He couldn't get over it. You mean they sell this in stores? Was his first response. Second response, don't tell anyone how good this is. This is our secret. And then he would get into trouble whenever alcohol was around. Oh my. But he knew there were two kinds of alcoholics. There were good alcoholics and there were bad alcoholics. A good alcoholic is stupid and selfish and whiny and immature and gets into trouble and throws up. And you sit that person down and say, allergy of the body, obsession of the mind, don't take the first drink, go to a meeting a day, you'll be fine. And they never drink again. That's the good alcoholic. And then there's the bad alcoholic. The bad alcoholic gets into trouble. You sit that person down. You say, day at a time, allergy of the body, obsession of the mind, don't take the first drink, go to meetings. And they say, got it. Yeah, I got it. I'm with you. And then they get drunk again. So you sit them down and you go more slowly. Allergy of the body, obsession of the mind. First drink, get you drunk, go to meetings. This time I've got it. This time I've got it. And then they get drunk again. And then they get drunk again. After his 6th rehab, he knew he was the bad kind of alcoholic. He was drying out in the state hospital. And he became aware of the fact that he was the kind of alcoholic who gets drunk again. Has not had a drink since. Ego, deflation at depth. The less people tolerated us, and people, we wear people out. My friend Patricia, who suicided on a relapse in 1994, Patricia said every so often all of her friends would lose their sense of humor and she'd have to go find new friends. The less people tolerated us, the more we withdrew from society, from life itself. As we became subjects of King Alcohol, shivering denizens of his mad realm, the chilling vapor that is loneliness settled down. It thickened, ever becoming blacker. Some of us sought out sordid places, hoping to find understanding, companionship, and approval. I thought I was the only one that did that. I heard my sponsor talk about it. He had a way of putting into words things I did not have words for. And he said, you're out with some people and they're having a few drinks, but you're drinking. And the party's over. Everyone starts to go home. And you're not done. And you have to go somewhere and get done. Understanding, companionship, and approval. That's one of the benefits of being an active alcoholic in a large city. There's always somewhere you can go to get done. And I did an awful lot of drinking in Los Angeles. I found after hours places where good heavens, I mean, I there I was, 4 a.m., classes at 8:30, hope I make it. As the teacher, classes at 8:30, hope I make it. Some of us sought out sordid places. Momentarily we did. Then would come oblivion and the awful awakening to face the hideous 4 horsemen: terror, bewilderment, frustration, despair. Now, it's a reference to the last book of the New Testament, the book of Revelation. And there, it's a lot of vivid imagery in there. It's quite wild. Friends of mine who want to read the Bible drop acid and read the book of Revelation, and it's not recommended. It won't help you. It will not help your recovery. Or reading the book of Daniel, it will not help your recovery. Why don't you start with the Psalms? That's nice, and they're a little more friendly, except for the cursing Psalms, and you can skip those. But there's a horseman, the four horsemen: war, famine, disease, and death. War, famine, disease, and death. But this is terror, bewilderment, frustration, despair. And then Bill writes, unhappy drinkers who read this page will understand. Now this is page 151. This is the first page of the big book, I Understood. It was being read at a meeting. When I got sober back in 1976, 77, we'd read the beginning of chapter 3 or chapter 11 or chapter 5. Those were the three things always read at the beginning of meetings. So I heard this page over and over and over again, and then one night I heard it. And I remember going, where is that? And I had to, go home and blow the dust off my big book and read that and read it. Oh, I wasn't sure I was an alcoholic, but I was sure an unhappy drinker. Whew. The first step. You done? The first step. You ready? When my sponsor got back from his 7th treatment place, which was in New Jersey, and it was a treatment place that specialized in priests who were reluctant to recover. That was the polite title. Losers. Guys in their 40s and 50s and 60s who had been to rehab after rehab, and they're unemployable and useless and perhaps a little angry. Terry was 30 when he got there. Anyway, he comes back from 6 or 7 months of treatment and meets with the Archbishop, who says, I want you to start a meeting for priests. So that started in Los Angeles, and he called it the White Flag Men's Stag. It still exists. They opened it up to everybody. The Archbishop wanted to keep it only for priests because alcoholism is such a scandalous disease. That's how they think. And Terry said, no, the priests need to meet other men who are as desperate and broken and scared as they are. Or they stay unique, special, and different, and then you never get well. So it's Monday nights. It used to be at the Episcopal Cathedral in downtown Los Angeles, which is now the Bonaventure Hotel. And when I moved to Los Angeles, 1977, I'm a year sober, and Terry was my brand new sponsor. And you have to check out your sponsor. I asked him on the phone, I need a sponsor. I didn't know anything about him, and he picked me up, and we went to this awful meeting. Back, upstairs, wooden place. The guy in front of me, it was a Skid Row meeting. That was where the Episcopal Cathedral was, Skid Row. And the guy in front of me was not really sober yet. And he was kind of under the influence and kind of stoned, maybe a little thick, a little shut down. And as he went up the stairs, his sphincter relaxed. And he soiled himself, and he just kept right on moving because why not? I noticed. And the meeting was in a room over here with no ventilation, because why would you want ventilation? And everyone's smoking because you need to if you're going to get sober. And they had a fan, I think, to blow some of the smoke out. Maybe it was just a sad little gesture. And our friend goes in, and he's reeking pretty strongly by now, and there was another fellow in there who, in Los Angeles, LA is this very interesting complexity of beings. And there are people, you refer to them as being in the industry or in the business. It means the movies, the show people. And they're writers, they're musicians, they are tech people, but they're all interesting folks. And several attended this meeting, and this guy was a stunt man, and he had a Taurus bulba mustache and a big barrel chest, and he was bald head. He looked like a movie double, because he was. But he got a lungful of our friend, and he instantly threw up. Barf. This is my first meeting with my first sponsor, my new sponsor. And I see Terry go over to the guy who threw up. And he said, "Are you okay?" He said, "Oh, yeah." I said, "I'm okay. I just got caught by surprise." And then Terry said, "Go get the kitty litter." I don't know if your meeting keeps kitty litter as near the decaf, maybe, or the herbal teas and the kitty litter. But it means this has happened before. This means. And then he went over to the guy who was just soiled. And he said, "You could use some friends." And there were other guys from the halfway house, and they took him down to the bathroom. And they cleaned him up. They washed him up, and he wasn't thrown out. He wasn't shamed. He's one of us. We recognize him. And the meeting started on time. What I saw at that meeting was about half a dozen traditions in active operation. The common welfare comes first. Now and then a serious drinker being dry at the moment says, "I don't miss it at all, feel better, work better, having a better time." As ex-problem drinkers, we smile at such a sally. That's the last time that word has been used in the English language. We smile at such an attempt, or have you ever used that word? I have never. We know our friend is like a boy whistling in the dark to keep up his spirits. He fools himself inwardly. He would give anything to take half a dozen drinks and get away with them. See, I just don't want consequences. I want to be able to do anything I want to do now and have no consequences. What's wrong? What could go wrong? He'll presently try the old game again, for he isn't happy about his sobriety. He cannot picture life without alcohol. How can I? It was my major relationship. I mean, I dated alcohol. My relationship with alcohol was that of the battered spouse to the battering spouse. I loved you, and I can't stay away from you, and I hope you don't kill me next time. But if you do, I'll still be back because you're special. Someday he will be unable to imagine life either with alcohol or without it. Then he will know loneliness such as few do. He will be at the jumping off place. He'll wish for the end. I always thought that was a San Francisco reference with the bridge. I mean, the bridge is our favorite way of going, as in jumping off. And then Bill writes 9 words. Sometimes he writes fancy words. Words right out of Roget's Thesaurus, if you ever taught high school English. We have shown how we got out from under. And that's what happens here. Tell me your story. We have shown how we got out from under. I don't know how you're going to get out from under, but this is how I got out from under. You say, yes, I'm willing, but am I to be consigned to a life where I shall be stupid, boring, and glum like some righteous people I see? I know I must get along without liquor, but how can I? Have you a sufficient substitute? Yes, it is a substitute, and it is vastly more than that. It is a fellowship. In Alcoholics Anonymous, there you will find release from care, boredom, and worry. Notice Bill likes those threes: the care, boredom, and worry. Your imagination will be fired. Life will mean something at last. The most satisfactory years of your existence lie ahead. Thus we find the fellowship, and so will you. Inspired by words like that, some folks decided to put on this annual conference in Galveston, Texas, where people can meet each other new, say hello, find new friends, connect with old friends, tell your story. And we share experience, and we share strength, and we share hope. And it's really important to have the Al-Anon voice. Maybe it was Lisa last night, but someone who spoke about we know alcoholism kills people, but untreated Al-Anonism kills people too. One of my friends, member of my community, sober a long time, his mother was surrounded by alcoholism, and she died, worked to death by the age of 57, exhausted and worn out. That's what happens to a lot of us. The internal damage is major. It takes a while to find some hope. And I think hope is step 2. In the 12 and 12, Bill writes about step 2, and it's all about faith, belief, faith, belief, faith, belief. And I'd never liked the chapter. I think it's patronizing. I think it's condescending. We who believe look at you who don't and feel sorry for you. Maybe one day you'll be like us, and then you'll be fine. And it's a tone of voice I've never liked. I believe I could do all this in Latin, English, and Greek at one time, and a little Hebrew, and I was still drunk. I had faith, but I did not have hope. Because I'm unique, and I'm special, and I'm different. I'm worse than you, I'm better than you. The program will work for you because you are simple people. I'm complicated. It's not going to work for me. Until one day, 5, 6, 7, 8 months sober, I had a little bit of hope. A little bit of hope. I'm still not a very hopeful person. I consider myself to be a pessimist with a good attitude, but I'm still not a very helpful person. I'm pretty sure we're doomed. And the sun is burning out. And, do something. I had the realization that the program works for anybody in the room, and I'm in the room. And that it was getting a little easier. I was breathing a little more freely. It was a little bit better. I was even starting to make a few friends, although that terrified me, coming out of my isolation. And it went, I'm almost done, 2 more minutes. Poor Tom can't drink. Poor Tom can't drink. Oh, no, you go ahead. It's all right. I abused it so badly. No, poor Tom can't drink. Deprivation. 2, I don't have to drink. It's not deprivation. It's freedom. I don't have to drink today. Now, I still think about it. I mean, there are people that don't, but I think about it pretty regularly. It's just the thought. And what I know, and this has been going on since the bicentennial, I don't drink today. If the thought of having a drink occurs to me, and it does, I can always drink tomorrow. There's also a box of donuts back there, and I might have one of them tomorrow. but I'm not going to have it today for a variety of reasons. I do this one day at a time, and it's a freedom, and it's a joy, and I need to do the footwork, but I need to talk to you so that I remember to remember the simple tools of the program, and that allows me to have some freedom and occasional joy. Happiness is another topic. Let me end with the serenity prayer, but I want to talk about it for 90 seconds. Things I cannot change. I cannot change the past. And I cannot change the truth. And I cannot change you. It's such a... Loving someone does not change them, it changes me. Hating someone does not change them, it changes me. Can't change the past, can't change the truth, can't change you. What can I change? My thinking, my behavior, and my attitudes. And that's the hard work of the program. Done.
Thank you, Tom. I will say, I've never seen a bag of kitty litter at an Al-Anon meeting. Maybe we should think about that.
Maybe you should start one.
Okay, we will, after we say the Lord's Prayer, we will have a break until 10:45. I want to remind you again that there are some really fun things on the tables in the back for the silent auction, and we would love it if you would participate with that. The Ask It basket is right up here on the front. This will be for the Q&A on Sunday morning. And let's see, there's also a Tradition 7 basket somewhere. Lucy?
Yeah, I was going to say something. Hi, folks. We have a full house, and there are still people coming in. So if there is a seat in between you guys, if you can kind of scoot to the, so people that are coming late can please sit down. That would be fantastic.
What about sitting on laps?
Tom is making his lap available.
If you want someone to sit on your lap, just raise your hand.
So when you come back, move forward, move in. Okay, we will say the Lord's Prayer in our spot where we are. All together. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. 10:45.
Zoom off.